All right, we are back live. Basically, what happened, my computer crashed and I needed to restart everything.
Families and friends
Cut
get
in here
answers
live,
and
Chelsea
closure.
Grimm.
This week, we have some new clues
Yeah.
in the disappearance of a young woman who vanished while on a cross-country adventure. It's been nearly 2 months since Chelsea Grimm set off from California on a road trip heading to the East Coast. Chelsea was on her way to a friend's wedding, and at one point she called her parents saying that she was instead going to head home. And that's when the trail goes cold. Chelsea Grimm set off from San Diego on a cross-country road trip on September 24th. She was going to a wedding in Connecticut. Working as an artist and photographer, Chelsea planned to document her 2,800-mile road trip through photos.
She was spontaneous. She changed plans a lot. The magnitude of this adventure, quote unquote, of driving across the country was a lot, even for Chelsea.
Chelsea had first planned on flying to Connecticut, but decided to drive to accommodate her new pet bearded dragon, Roz. 3 days into the trip, her parents said she called and said she didn't think she could do the trip by herself and was going to camp for a few days instead before coming home. She arrived in Phoenix and met up with her sister as well as a friend. She was supposed to meet that same friend for lunch the next day, but canceled, arriving in Williams, Arizona instead. Chelsea was parked near a graveyard and War Memorial when she was stopped by a police officer responding to a call.
You doing all right?
Yeah, I just
meet up with
did
your
a
sister.
photo shoot of the lost soldiers. I got a little emotional, so I was crying before I got back on the road. I was actually thinking of just camping for the night, but I wasn't really sure exactly yet.
Gotcha.
I didn't plan to be here till sunset.
Okay. Just hang out here however long you want. You're good to go.
Her parents said Chelsea's response in that call did not seem out of the ordinary.
One thing that seemed very in the ordinary or in
That's
character
all right.
was how I think she said, "I appreciate your compassion" or something like that. That sounded 110% like Chelsea.
The officer in that stop suggested safe places for Chelsea to camp for the night. She was spotted again by a woodcutter on September 30th, camping in her car near Ashfork, Arizona. Chelsea had told her parents she may not have phone service while she was
It's not right
camping.
though, S.J. Howard.
But after not hearing
You read
from
the
her
police
for several
report,
days,
did not meet up with her
parents
sister.
reported her missing on October
That was wrong.
4th. Just 1 day later, her SUV, a white Ford Focus, was found abandoned on the side of the road with 2 flat tires.
She seemed to have left that car of her own volition in an organized way. It was locked. She had taken her wallet and we think her phone and her sleeping bag, among other things, along with the bearded dragon.
Authorities have notified police in other states to be on the lookout for Chelsea. Her family's also hired a private investigator.
There was 2 flat tires, was out on a dirt road. How far was the body cam video where she was talked to by the police there to where the car was found? Did somebody interact with her?
Not playing
and
that
then they
game
drove down that road?
Her parents telling NewsNation's
doing this
Brian
for
Enton they were
2
hanging
years.
on to hope
No one has complained.
someone would recognize her
And start
with her
complaining
pet
today.
dragon.
Goodbye.
The chances of people recognizing Chelsea are
Not in the
sort
mood
of
today.
connecting the dots. If they see somebody with a bearded dragon, they're going to take an extra look at that person.
Not in the mood today.
And as we cover this case, now is the opportunity that if you have questions or comments, I encourage you to post them and we'll do our best to answer them. Joining me now to talk more about Chelsea's disappearance, NewsNation senior national correspondent Brian Enton. Brian, good to see you. I was glad to see that you were covering this case. You spoke with Chelsea's parents. You spoke with the private investigator. This is a real mystery, and there's some peculiar clues, starting with the timeline of events. I mean, you've got a young woman who was adventurous, who was excited about this cross-country trip, and then she decided to turn around. What did you take away from your discussion with her parents as to what was happening with her in the days leading up to her disappearance?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marnie. They didn't seem to express that she was having any kind of like mental health issues that they knew of. I think they felt like her trip the fact that she was going to drive all the way across the country when she told them that she wasn't able to fly because of the bearded dragging. And I think they thought that was like, oh, I don't know that that's such a good idea. It's kind of like, it's a long way. I don't think you realize what you're getting yourself into. And I don't think they were that surprised when she said she was going to turn around, because they told me they were sort of already thinking like, there's no way, it's just such a long drive. But there weren't really any red flags. I don't think that they noticed, at least that they told me before her disappearance. And that's one of the things that's so frustrating about this case, I think, is that there's really not that many clues. I mean, the car was found, the 2 flat tires, the fact that her cell phone and wallet were not there, I think is hopefully a good sign, because, we've covered so many of these other kinds of stories where the cell phone and wallet are found, with the car. And I don't know, that always strikes me as it makes me more worried, thinking like, who would leave their cell phone and wallet behind? So perhaps she did take off on her own with her wallet and maybe have some kind of mental health issue that her parents just weren't aware of. We really just don't know at this point.
Right. Yeah. You think if somebody has the wherewithal to take those important things that none of us leave home without, that they weren't taken, right? It wasn't some sort of altercation that she left them behind. I want to play another portion of your interview with the parents. This is Janet Grimm, Chelsea's mom, talking about sort of the timeline of events that led them to report Chelsea missing. Let's play that.
We last talked to Chelsea on the 27th in the afternoon, and she said, I'm going to camp for a couple of days, and so I'm going to be probably where I'm not going to have cell service. And so for a couple of days, we didn't even think about it again, because she had told us she would be offline, and we knew she was in in Arizona, where there are spots where it's not particularly good for communication. So it was after a couple more days after that we started thinking, this is too long for a camping trip, and she should be back. She should be somewhere where she can get in touch. And so on the 4th of October, we reported her missing, and on the 5th, they found her car.
Brian, leading up to finding her car on the 5th, Chelsea met with a friend. I believe she met with a sister. What did her parents say about those encounters, those interactions with people that she knew in the area?
Yeah, that was one of the things that I asked about, was like, did her friend express any kind of concern that she was acting weird? And the parents said no. And I asked to get in touch with the friend, and that never happened. It would have been nice to talk to the friend, one-on-one. But the parents said that the friend didn't have any concerns, didn't say that Chelsea was acting weird at all. The part of the story that I've also sort of thought is interesting, where they said that Chelsea, in the days leading up to her disappearance, tried to pay for something with euros instead of US dollars. Again, just made me wonder if maybe, she was having some kind of mental health issue, and maybe just wanted to go off the grid. It's now been quite a long time. You'd think she would have popped up by now, but even though the parents said the friend didn't have any information that she was acting strange, there were some other reports of some kind of strange behavior.
Yeah. I've got a question here. This is from Flipside Fishin' on YouTube.
Here we go. Here comes the question.
Did they say what caused the flat tire? As you talked to the private investigator, do we know?
So far behind in this. It's so frustrating.
Oh, they didn't say, just that it was 2 flat tires. And I'm just looking back at my notes. I think they were on the right side. So it was 2 flat tires on the right side. The cell phone, wallet, and sleeping bag were gone. There are a couple of, or at least one other private investigator that's gotten involved in the case, from what I'm told, in addition to the one that I initially spoke to. And from what I've been told, the police have been giving information to the private investigators, information that isn't necessarily public. So it seems like the police are open to outsiders trying to help with the case. They've just released such minimal information to us.
God!
And the question about how the what caused the flat tires. They may know, but they haven't
Oh
told
my
us.
God!
Well, it's a good sign they're working with private
Listen, I
investigators.
love Brian
Oftentimes
Enton,
they
but come
don't.
on,
They like to
man.
go on their own.
You
Good
can look
question
around on
from
YouTube. You
our
know what
viewer
we've been
there. I have
doing
another
over
question
here.
from Jay Ballou on YouTube. They're asking about phone pings and maybe
Ugh.
she took a ride from someone. There's
This is
always
what
digital
happens
evidence if she
when
took
a
her
mainstream
phone.
media
Has that led to
drops a
anything
case.
promising?
They don't look into it.
That's another
They
really
just
good
go
question.
live and
I would
don't have the
imagine
correct
police have
information.
been looking into
I
that.
knew this was going to
But
happen
again, it's not
today. I'm
something
so
that
frustrated.
they've released to us or that the private investigators have said anything about.
Okay, the pet bearded dragon. I had to look these up just to remind myself what they look like. I mean, it's a big lizard. It's very colorful. Was this a new pet of hers? And this could be a major clue in spotting her, at least according to her,
Oh
her parents.
my God, they're so behind.
It was relatively new. I don't think she was aware that she
This
couldn't
is really
fly
not helping.
with the bearded dragon initially, which is why I think her plan was to fly, and then she switched to driving because she didn't think she could fly with the bearded dragon. It is an important clue because in addition to her wallet, car, and the sleeping bag and cell phone not being with the car, the bearded dragon was also not there. So if she did take off on her own, this bearded dragon was apparently very, very important to her. That's why she was driving across the country. It would make sense that she would take the bearded dragon with her. So if people think they may see her, I mean, you may spot like a bearded dragon on her shoulder, or she may be carrying the bearded dragon. And one thing that was interesting to me with this, Marnie, is when we first did the story, when I interviewed the parents, like a lot of people have bearded dragons, like especially on Twitter, like that really caught people's attention. And I was happy to see that because I think it's a part of the story that people are interested in. I think it helped sort of push it along, more eyeballs out there, hopefully.
Well, certainly. I mean, if you put somebody who looks like Chelsea together with this bearded dragon, this big lizard, I think it's going to be a major point for people to keep an eye out for. She also had a tattoo.
I feel bad.
Where was the tattoo? Do we know what the tattoo is?
It's a good question. I have to go back and look.
Everything we've been doing for a month.
I think that's a picture of it there. You can see it on her wrist. I don't know exactly what it's of, but it's sort of on the inside part of her wrist. So that's something else that I guess Ivy, actually, I'm looking at your notes there.
Yeah, it looks like a vine.
It's
with
Ivy. Come on, guys.
Kind of wrapped around her wrist. What about?
Yeah, so that's also something that people would hopefully notice.
Yeah, distinguishable. What about her past? I mean, was just traveling cross country, road trips, camping, something that she often
go do this
did?
case
What did her parents say about that?
I don't think she had been on a road trip to this extreme, but her parents did say that she was very, very adventurous. And so it wasn't like uncommon that she was going to camp out or that she was kind of doing this, like that she sprung this on them, that she was going to drive with the bearded dragon. They said she had this adventurous spirit. And that's another reason initially they didn't report her missing right away because they thought, well, she might be camping out in an area where there's no cell phone service. And we've seen this in other cases that we've covered. It's like with young people, they go on these road trips and, the parents don't just automatically jump to conclusions that the worst has happened. I mean, you give it a little bit of time to see, maybe she'll pop into cell range, shoot me a text. So they were not initially
I'm not disrespecting Brian at all. I respect him. He's someone that I looked
but then
at
some point they were like,
in this whole journalism
it's
game,
unlike her to go off the grid for this long.
I'm
and then
really
it was the next day that her SUV was found with the flat tires.
Really
so
disappointed.
That's when they really, really got worried. And I really felt for those parents just because you can imagine what they're going through. I mean, not knowing is just awful.
Hey, reach out to the guy that's been covering it for a month. Maybe get a little light.
Even though they don't suspect she was having any kind of mental health issues, they're hoping that she just, took off on her own and is hiding out somewhere. They don't want to think the worst in terms of like someone abducting her or the possibility of her taking her own life, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, and I think some of the things that she took with her gives, I would imagine, the family hope, and for all of the families of missing loved ones that we talk to on a regular basis, it's the not knowing, right, that is the worst. It's now been more than a month since they reported her missing. I want to play, Brian, a portion of that body cam video when she encountered the officer. This was near that cemetery where she was taking some photographs. Here's a part of that.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing great. Are you doing all right?
Yeah, I just was doing a photo shoot of the lost soldiers and got a little emotional, so I was crying before I got back on the road. I was actually thinking of just camping for the night, but I wasn't really sure exactly yet.
Gotcha. Well,
I didn't plan to be here till sunset.
Okay. Just hang out here however long you want. You're good to go.
Awesome.
It's a pretty non-eventful encounter right there, nothing out of the ordinary, but her parents watched that. What'd they tell you about that engagement with the officer?
Agreed with what you're saying. They didn't pick up on anything out of the ordinary. They said it sounded just like her. They actually sort of smiled and they told me, how polite she was with the officer, that and compassionate, that was like her personality to a T. So again, something that kind of frustrated them. It's like, here's another piece of video, a piece of information that came out, but it really, to them, didn't really lead to any clues about what may have happened. It didn't strike them as odd at all, the way she was talking, and she didn't sound especially upset. It seemed just like her, they said.
It was also, it caught my attention, she encountered a woodcutter at some point, and this area of Arizona, it's sort of near, I'm looking at a map, Coconino County is north of Sedona, north of Prescott, pretty north of Phoenix. This woodcutter, I'm assuming that means like a lumberjack. I don't know what a woodcutter exactly is, but what was the encounter with this person? Who were they? Anything strange about that for the family?
Coming out of my skin today.
Yeah, so it's actually not uncommon, I've learned, for like woodcutters to be working in that area. It is kind of like a lumberjack. And I've learned, there's reports that now that it wasn't just one woodcutter, there may have been other woodcutters that also saw her. And again, sort of in a frustrating way, they didn't have any information, at least that we know of, that really helped figure out what happened to her. Just the fact that they saw her camping with her SUV there. It was near Ashfork, Arizona. That was around September 30th when the report from the one woodcutter came in. I don't know the exact time frame for the other woodcutters who saw her, but I think she probably kind of stood out in that area. I don't think that there were other people camping around. So I think when they saw her, camping gear and her SUV there, it's something that they remembered and then were able to report to the police.
Have police, the family, the private investigator searched on foot? Have they taken dogs out to the area where her car was seen?
Yeah, they have been out there. I'm not sure about dogs, but I know at least 2 of the private investigators have been out there, have been interviewing people. That's how we found out that there was more than one woodcutter who spotted her. But there hasn't really been any significant information to come from that. At least that they're releasing. Again, I know that the police have been open to at least one of the private investigators and providing some information to them that isn't necessarily public. So there could be more behind the scenes. But I think if there was something really important that could help push the investigation forward, I would hope the police would have released it by now. And they've just been really, really quiet about the whole thing.
One thing, Brian, I listened to your interview with the private investigator, and when the 2 of you talked, he indicated that they had uncovered some clues, but he wasn't able to share at that time specifically what those may be. Has anything come of that in the last few weeks? Any update on that front?
No specifics with the new clues. Some of that, I think, was the fact that there were other woodcutters who had seen her. It wasn't just the one, because police released that it was just one initially. But that was really the extent of the new information that we've been able to get. I know that they've been talking to other friends of hers, trying to get a handle more on, what she may have been going through in that moment. I mean, you know how it is with your parents. Like, you sometimes put on
it's not the fact that I'm a better reporter,
when,
it's that
when
I
you
have
talk to
more
your parents, you try to make it seem like everything's okay sometimes when maybe it's not, and you may be telling friends some more personal things that you don't want your parents to worry about. So I know that they've been really trying to dig in deep into other people who had talked to Chelsea, but again, none of that has been released at this point, which
There's no confusion.
Which is kind of what's been
There's no
frustrating about
confusion,
covering the
Hazel.
story. It's like you
We
want,
have the
new
story
nuggets
here
to
on
come
LPL True
out
Crime.
to kind of
Believe
help
me,
push the
they're
story
just
forward. And
weeks. They're
it's
2
just
months
kind of been
behind in
quiet.
this.
There just haven't
They're 2
been.
months
I would
behind.
think they would probably be looking
month.
into like
About a
cameras
month
at
and a
gas
half.
stations in the area. I mean, do we know much about this area? Is it pretty desolate?
It is pretty desolate. There are a couple of gas stations. I was looking at Google Earth, so they're certainly looking at
Just
cameras. And
unfocused
like one thing that I
attention
keep thinking about,
on this
police haven't
case. Let's
said
jump back on
that
it
they believe
and
there's
report.
foul play, which, in other
That's
cases
what
they
this
will
is.
come out and say that if there's something that they come across. They haven't said that in this case. So I just keep going back to, I think the hope is, and this has happened before, where people have some kind of breakdown and, just sort of disappear for a while. And that's certainly possible.
So it tells
in this
me
case.
they
I
have
think that's
not obtained the
probably what
police
her
report at
parents
all.
are clinging on to.
They
But
would have all this
I'm glad we're still
information.
doing the story because, just because there's not some crazy sign of foul play doesn't mean that it's not an important story, and that, there might not be something, there still could be something nefarious that happened here. We just don't know.
Right. And sometimes you have people come forward. I mean, they're adults who go off the grid for their own reasons and will contact law enforcement and say, am I okay? That hasn't happened in this case,
Yeah.
which leads her parents to believe that something else has happened, and they're holding out that hope. The Coconino County Sheriff's Department is the one to call, and we've got that number. Finally, Brian, how's her family seem to be doing? And it's been a couple of weeks since you spoke with them. We're now more than a month since she was reported missing. How did they seem? Their level of concern right now, just in regards to everything they're facing?
I think, like with other families in this situation, they're clinging on to hope. I mean, every day that she's not found is harder in some ways, but then you still have the hope that, that she's going to be found alive. And you made a really good point. Like in other situations where people have just wanted to go off the grid, sometimes they'll want to stay off the grid, but they will just like show up to a local police department somewhere just to sort of like let people know, since they know that their story's been on the news. And this one thing that is good is, not a lot of other, I don't really know of any other. Actually, there was one other, I think we're the only network that's really covered the story.
What?
There was one other story I saw on one other network, quick, like I think because of the bearded dragon, it got some attention. But the good news is it does appear to be like gaining a lot of attention online with a lot of the people that follow the missing stories and the cyber sleuths and that kind of thing. I've seen a lot on Twitter, so I think that also gives the parents hope that it's not like everybody's just forgetting about Chelsea and going to stop looking for her. So every time someone shares it online or we do the story, I think that obviously helps the parents out.
Online.
It's why we do this. You can see Chelsea's picture on the screen. We'll have this on our website, newsnationnow.com. Brian Enton, thank you as always. It's good to see you. I'm glad that we're covering this case together.
God bless you. I love you.
I know you're in touch with the private investigator. And for folks who are watching and listening, if you have any information that can help in the search for Chelsea, you can contact the Coconino County Sheriff's Office. It's in Arizona, 928-774-4523. And so many of our missing cases come from you. It's important to us. So if you have a case you think we should be looking into, send it to us at newsnationnow.com/missing. My thanks to Brian Enton as always, and thank you for watching. I'll be back next week with another missing case. I'm Marty Hughes in Chicago. Thanks for watching.
All right, let's talk a little bit. You obviously saw my reactions during the live. I was probably a little bit more over dramatic just because we have a lot into this. We have a lot into this. And I feel that the presentation was just kind of thrown together, not really any new research into it. And maybe that's how they launch these cases again, just basic information. But there's really some timeline issues I have. She doesn't meet with her sister at all. So that needs to be corrected. That's a major oversight because that can lead people in a major different direction in this case. So I'm a little upset about that. And listen, I know Brian has other things to do. They probably said, hey, we're going to do this case. They passed him some notes and we just want you to comment. So it's a very vanilla. It was a very, very vanilla from NewsNation. I wish they would have done a little bit more research going forward with this. And, I'm a little bit disappointed because it starts people and it starts to confuse people again. But the good thing is people are probably going to go out and start searching this on YouTube which hopefully it directs everybody towards this content here, and they'll get the story straight. I mean, we have the case file. I've interviewed one of the private investigators that were on the case. I've talked to Chelsea's friends. We've had, drama with Chelsea's ex-boyfriend. We had the friend of Chelsea's ex-boyfriend, Elias, on the show to talk about the GoFundMe. So there's a lot of elements to this that NewsNation has not picked up. And a lot of the times, mainstream media will keep these cases very vanilla. But the good thing about it is this. Let's take a positive away from this. It's back out in the national media, which is great. That's what I want. I know that's what you all want. I know that's what, Chelsea's best interests, her family, her friends, whoever that's related to Chelsea. This is back out in the mainstream media. So we will continue to beat that drum. We will continue to talk about this case. I promise you that, my friends. But, listen, it was a little angsty to watch that. I wanted to jump out of my skin today. And obviously you saw it, some probably overreactions, but it's like, yeah, I wish whoever, they have producers, they have people that work behind the scenes to do these stories. I wish they would have done a little bit more research, because it's a little misleading, some of the information that was put out there today. And the good thing is we're on record for the last month to set this record straight. So if anybody has any inklings about this case, of where it is, what is going on, who's involved, LTL True Crime Podcast, come right here. Bang. I have all your source of information. I mean, we've been in it. We've been in it neck deep here. So, all good stuff. We have to look at it and take it away for what it is. It is out there in the national media. I'm glad that NewsNation is picking this back up again. Hopefully we'll start pointing some people in the correct direction of of our reporting here on LTL. I mean, we have everything. I mean, last night we talked to Steve, former private investigator, not former private investigator, he's still a private investigator, but we had Steve here last night. He was formerly on this case doing private investigation for quite a few days. And we got his story last night, his investigation. He told us straight. We've also gone through the full Coconino Sheriff's Office police file. I have all the body cam footage here. I have all the auto footage here. We're still working behind the scenes to get things from Phoenix. We're still trying to work and get an updated case file from Coconino Sheriff's Office, if there is one. So we will find out all the answers here. We will keep digging in as deep as we can in this case and keep putting it out there. I'm not letting this go until Chelsea comes home. I can promise you that. I can promise you that. I will not let this go until Chelsea comes home. So, listen, not much more here. I guess I could talk about. If there's anybody new watching, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment after this video post. If you're looking for Chelsea Grimm, proper Chelsea Grimm investigating, go right on my homepage, right there on the playlist, Chelsea Grimm missing person. Bang. I have about 42 streams or 42 videos that I've done on this case, multiple live streams, I've interviewed multiple people that have been involved in this case, in Chelsea's life, in the investigation. You will get the truth here on LTL True Crime Podcast. So, listen, I'm a little bit out of my skin right now. I did tweet at Brian Enton. I did tweet at NewsNation. I don't even know if it went out. It didn't even go out. Hang on. Let me refresh. Yeah, my tweet didn't post for some reason, but I'm gonna post it again and see if I get any reaction. Let's see. NewsNation, Brian Enton, you are so behind on. Let's see. I'm going to tweet at Brian. I'm going to tweet at NewsNation. And I'm not attacking them. Look, they have their business. They have their stories that they do. I just want to make sure that everything is kept straight in this case. I don't want it to turn into an Idaho fiasco. And that's why I went on record and really started to promote this case. it's something that captivated my heart, you know, over 2 months ago when I first started hearing stories about this. And, you know, I don't want this to turn into an Idaho. I don't want that to happen. This young lady doesn't deserve that, and neither do the victims in Idaho. And I understand that people are going to grab this story and pull it in different directions. But I wanted to get out ahead of it and put the case file out there and end all this conspiracy and all this bullshit that surrounds these cases. Because these people, the victims in these cases, and I'm not saying that Chelsea's a victim, but I'm just saying, you know, she's right now a missing person. But the missing persons and victims in these cases get fucking smeared, and I'm tired of it. It's not productive. You know, I get it. We sit here and we think, but then they get attacked, then their families get attacked, and it's not right. You know, the person that ends up doing this stuff, you know, I'll just take in the Idaho case. The person that's in jail right now, Brian Koberger, that's being held responsible for four deaths. They don't attack him. He's the good guy. It's always they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done this. You know, Steve Gonzalez and his family's always on the fucking TV. They just want to get on TV and be out there front and center and blah, blah. They get attacked. They get attacked. Not the person that's responsible. People sympathize with that person. But the victims and the families, the communities, those are people that get attacked all the time. And I didn't want that to happen in this case. I did not want that to happen in this case. I wanted it straight out there. No bullshit. And that's why I came out. We obtained the case file right away, body cam footage, and interviewed everybody that I possibly could to get the record straight in Chelsea's disappearance. But I'm going to keep beating the drum. I promise you, I will keep beating the drum here on LTL True Crime Podcast. I'm not letting this case go until Chelsea comes home. I am not letting it go. I don't even know if my tweet went out. Something's going on. My Twitter is not posting. Won't allow me to post. Did they block me? Did I get suspended? Did I blocked? What's going on? Oh, I got it. Cool. It finally posted. Let's take a look. I'll show you. Bang, right here. Came at him a little bit. NewsNation, Brian Enton, you're so behind in Chelsea Grimm's case. It's truth. I feel like they were. I feel that's the truth. But hopefully this will kick up some buzz, and people start getting some real eyes on this. National media now, national will know about it now, and hopefully it will catch some world attention. And we'll just have to see what happens. We'll have to see what happens, and hopefully people will get directed towards LTL True Crime Podcast to hear what has been going on. So it's really all I have right now. I'm probably going to stream tonight. What I wanted to do is maybe we'll go back and review this for the night audience. I'll calm down a little bit and we'll go back and look at it. You can obviously see my reactions. I don't know if that video posted online. They might have taken it down. Let me take a look, but we can come back to it tonight and they may go over some review in Chelsea's case. We'll get some thoughts of what y'all thought last night. So it did post, which is cool. Posted. So let's do this. Let me calm down a little bit. I get a few things that I need to do throughout the day. We'll come back tonight. We'll analyze the stream again with a fresh, clear head. We'll hang out with the night crew. We'll bring some people in, and maybe we can review a little bit from last night as well too. What I want to do is later on, at some point, maybe this weekend or this week coming up, is I want to go through all the tips that are in the police report, and we can go through and look at all those tips and figure out what at this point we've debunked, or what we can, what we can go through and maybe see is possibly a credible source. I'm going to reach back out to the business owner today in Arizona that sent in the tip about 10-6, see if they'll be able to come on tonight. Maybe they can call in and talk a little bit about with this. And if not that, maybe now that this is all out there, I can try to get Artemis back on tonight for a little while and chat with her and, see what she thinks now that all of this has been out. I think that would be really cool to have her back. So we'll put together a show tonight, and, I'll come back 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. And we'll hang out and talk a little bit about this. We'll review what NewsNation reported today. We'll do it for the night crew. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. So I'll work on something this afternoon, see what I can come up with. If not, we'll hang out, review the case file, go over maybe the interview from last night, and just kind of refresh and reload and see where we go from here. So I'm going to go out. I got a couple of things that I need to do, and I will talk with everybody soon. Thank you for tuning in. And again, I want to go on the record and just say this. I know I was being overreactive. I was reacting. I don't shit on NewsNation. Obviously, they have a bigger platform than I do. I don't shit on Brian Enton. I think his reporting is top notch. Everything that he's done in Idaho has been phenomenal. He's someone that I do look up to as a reporter. I think they were a little bit behind on this case and not well prepared. And I wish that it would have been a little bit better prepared as a presentation, because there's so many things that they missed and there's so many things that they could have done better. And I think it's just going to cause a lot of confusion, but hopefully we can keep things straight over here on LTL. So I'm going to go hang out. I got a couple of things I need to do this afternoon, and we'll come back and do this review tonight. And, I'll catch you all then. So everybody have a great afternoon. If it's your first time over here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you haven't already, go over and check out LTL True Crime Podcast Rewind. That's my second channel. And I'm trying to get that channel up and going too. And I have a lot of things planned for that over there. So please go check that out. And I will see you guys later tonight. I'll put the tile up in a couple of minutes. We'll do some review, and we'll hang out and get some thoughts. So everybody have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.